After my video called I'm Broken, talking about the experiences of my wife and our autistic 8-year-old at the Mother's Day school event, would I be adventurous enough to attend the Father's Day celebrations at the same school? And was it any better? Let's find out. Welcome, my friend. Thank you for joining me. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. I'm all about helping you raise your level of understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of the autistic community. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, well, I'd be delighted if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel and join the most amazing community. Okay, so the sequel to my video, I'm Broken. Now, for those that haven't seen the video, I'm Broken, you're free to go and check it out. But in essence, it's a video I did, actually a really impromptu, off-the-cuff video that no planning at all. It was really just an outpouring of thoughts and emotion after some experiences that was conveyed to me by my wife, my neurotypical wife, who went to a Mother's Day celebration event at our 8-year-old autistic son's school. It's just a mainstream school. So they have events throughout the year to include the community, Mother's Day, Father's Day, different things like that. Okay, and the key issue of the video, I'm Broken, on the Mother's Day event, was the type of inclusion that was implemented. And I guess I question the fact that was it even proper inclusion? And you can check the video out to see for yourself. Many people have commented about it and it's resonated with a lot of people. And now this is the follow-up. You're not going to believe this. After the I'm Broken video, yes, I did it. I went to the Father's Day celebration event at the same school with my very same 8-year-old autistic son. Okay, now let's start at the start here. After the I'm Broken video about the lack of inclusion at the Mother's Day celebration at my son's school, the school actually reached out to me, probably because some parents dobbed on me. Got nothing better to do, you hippies. Anyway, they reached out and surprisingly, they were actually really receptive. I mean, legitimately receptive, and really the only thing they conveyed to me was, we want to use this as an opportunity to get better, to grow, to improve. We want to hopefully use you to provide different levels of understanding and ideas for the next time it comes up. And they stuck to their word. Months later, leading up to the Father's Day celebration, the school contacted me and asked me if I could share or provide some ideas, some thoughts that could be implemented to make Father's Day a better success, a more inclusive event. And here's what I gave them. Let's go through the list. So the first thing I said was, clearly one of the main issues for Mother's Day for our autistic son, and you might remember in the I'm Broken video, I talked about an inclusion officer suggested to fix the problem that my son wear noise cancelling headphones. And that's not inclusion. That's not inclusion. That's telling them to fix it. That's exclusion. Noisy environment, big environment, potentially hundreds of people in one room. I said, I think it's more appropriate if we have smaller spaces. Now, you could have them in, say, one classroom or the 2 classes for each grade in one room. You could split it up rather than, say, many different grades or many different classes in one room. You could split it up into specific rooms. Now, the pros of that are many. Firstly, regardless of the parents or the children, if they're going to their child's classroom, not only do they get to check out their child's classroom, potentially meet their teacher, but they also get to interact, introduce, and mingle with people who are directly connected to their child, as in the parents of other kids. So it's actually a really great opportunity, and it's much less stressful. The environment is much more friendly. Does that make sense? So I thought that was the first thing that really could change. And it actually isn't that hard, right? And the second one was some sort of quiet space, some sort of room or area where you could go if it got a little bit, I guess, overwhelming. Another key thing in the I'm Broken video, you might remember, it was a cupcakes thing for Mother's Day. And my son, no one ever said, presumably to my son or to any kids, that everyone that comes on the day will receive a cupcake. I'm not sure if that was ever said. I'm assuming it wasn't, okay? But he's autistic. He heard cupcakes, Mother's Day. He assumed no matter when he gets there, there'll be a cupcake for him and his mum. And there wasn't. They got there a little bit late, although still within the time of the party. It was very overwhelming. They went outside, they came back in. No cupcakes left, no cupcakes for him or my wife. And that affected him. My wife couldn't care less, right? But it affected him. He felt like he'd been starved of an opportunity, or he'd let him and his mum down. So my idea for the Father's Day thing was, whatever we're going to go with, whatever kind of treat there is, we should physically get 2 of them, one for the child and one for the father or the parent that's coming on the Father's Day celebration. And we should physically put them in like a little gift pack, which can be supplemented with things the kids could make, right? The kids could make a Father's Day card or a little present, and there'd be like a little gift pack. And inside the gift pack would be 2 treats locked away. No one can take them, so the kid and the parent get the treats. Now, this is more, again, this doesn't actually have anything really to do with just one kid. This is the thing about inclusion. It's actually a win-win for the entire community. So now we've got dads who can go to the classroom of their child. That's not as overwhelming, regardless of who you are. They can interact with people, as in parents of kids that are directly connected to their child, meet the teacher, talk to the parents, feel like they're more of a close-knit community rather than just this massive room of hundreds of people. And they can enjoy a treat with their child in a little purpose-built gift that their child could work on. What about that is only for me or my son? Isn't that good for everyone? And I guess the final piece of advice that I conveyed was the timing of these things. Now, you might be a part of these kind of Mother's Day, Father's Day celebrations at school. Sometimes they're prior to school. At my child's school, they're definitely prior to school, so that kind of 8 to 9 window. And a lot of times they're basically from like 8 until 10 to 9, 5 to 9. It's a big chunk. And it's a start and a finish. Okay, now if you're not there at the start, who knows what you're going to miss? And, whenever you get there, it's just tough luck for you. Now, I thought 2 things. I thought, regardless of who the parents are or who the kids are, there's no use having these really long-winded celebrations for, in my case, 80-year-old children. An 80-year-old autistic son is not going to want to spend more than, I reckon, about 15 minutes at a celebration event prior to school. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you think that a child who's autistic or ADHD would want to hang out with a group of adults and kids doing kind of stuff they're not really that interested in doing, cooped up kind of thing, for an hour? So I suggested maybe you could stagger them. Regardless though, shrink the time of the event just to make it a little bit more inclusive in the respect that parents can still come and go when it works for them, but as a whole, it's a smaller period of time which provides less pressure on the kids and also the parents. Again, let's just stop for a second and acknowledge that after I provided some feedback on a Mother's Day celebration at the school not only reached out and said nothing but, we want to make this better, we want to improve, we want to use this as a positive experience, but they in fact followed up with actually asking me for the advice I've just given you. And in addition to that, they actually implemented it. And what was amazing to me, this is like, seriously, this is a massive win for inclusion. Okay, I know that it takes someone like me speaking up, but this is a massive win for inclusion because I did nothing wrong in providing feedback that an event was not inclusive for my 8-year-old autistic son. There's nothing wrong with that. Just because I'm in a minority doesn't mean I'm wrong. It's amazing that I was given that experience and that opportunity. But what I'm really proud of is the fact the school actually took it and implemented it. So I'll talk you through exactly what the school did. Now, if you are a parent of a child, you could forward this onto the school. Maybe you're in the education field. Either way, the school with all those things, number one, they did exactly what I suggested. And although all the kids in, I guess, the grade 2 area, I don't think there were that many other grades on our day. So they definitely did stagger it within grades and days and times. But the grade 2s, they all went to their own specific classroom. So my son and I got to go to his actual classroom with just the 20-odd kids, his teacher, and 20-odd dads. And I was physically able to walk up to one of the dads and go, hey, our sons spend a lot of time together. They really seem to, be great friends. We should definitely organise a catch-up so the guys can hang out and play, right? And you would never have got that opportunity in a room of hundreds of people. The noise alone would have shut me down. So I was open in that environment. Number 2, we got a little gift bag. And mine was a brown paper bag. Inside the brown paper bag was a Ziploc bag. Inside the Ziploc bag was 2 cinnamon donuts. 2 cinnamon donuts. How good's that? Locked up in a Ziploc bag. Not me. Everyone. Everyone. It wasn't special for us. Every dad and their son got to sit down and enjoy a cinnamon donut. Now, I will say, maybe this will resonate or relate as a dad of an autistic kid. All the other kids, their parents had prepared a Father's Day card. They decorated the paper bag or whatever the donuts go in. I just got a plain paper bag with donuts. But you know what? That wasn't an issue for me. There was more wins on that day than I could ever have imagined. I've got an 8-year-old autistic son. I actually asked him, mate, why do all these kids do cards? Why didn't you do me a card? Oh, that was my YouTube time, my relaxing time. So you couldn't give up your relaxing time for one day to do me a card? That's cool, because you know what? My 3-year-old, he made me this. This says, best dad ever, written and made by my 3-year-old, not written really, made by my 3-year-old at daycare. So, hey, I won, my friends. My 3-year-old, he took care of BidNet. You know, the worst thing is, I found out later, to my shock horror, that all the kids at daycare made one of these. Well, how the bloody hell can they all have the best dad ever? If he's gonna give me best dad ever, that's that. The rest have to come with their own little slogans. I don't know. Close to good, dad. Hey, dad, after Orion's dad, you're pretty good. And I guess just connecting the donuts in the Ziploc bag to some other things I talked about, which were staggered times or smaller times, or the idea that there's more flexibility. Because there was that little gift, and it was in a Ziploc bag and it was put on the desk of every child, we didn't have to get there on time. In fact, I made a point of not getting there on time. I think we got there about 15 minutes after it started. So we'd probably have about 15 minutes before it ended. And I found even that was probably slightly too long. But what's good was when my son became a little bit restless or overwhelmed, we just went outside. He walked me around the school. He introduced me to people. He showed me places. So it was fine. I don't remember there being a quiet space or an advertised or pointed out quiet space or quiet room for any child or any parent with kids to go to get away from the noise. And I would point out that even though it's significantly better than a big room, and there's, you know what, by the way, there's never perfection. That's cool. I'm just saying, even though there was not this massive big room with hundreds of people, it was still pretty intense because the classes, the 2 grades in grade 2, the 2 separate classes, are side by side. And they're separated, they're like one building and they're separated by one of those, I guess, kind of, you know, like movable walls. And that was open. So 2 classes, the wall in the middle presumably was opened, and 2 classes were kind of one big space. Now, clearly, the sound from one class is going to go into the other class and vice versa. So that did kind of make it a bit more of an echo chamber and a bit more overwhelming for my son than potentially it would have if they were just 2 closed off rooms. But in saying that, it's a minor detail, and it's still a massive difference from a huge hall or a huge room to the classrooms. That the complete differences between the Mother's Day experience and the Father's Day experience, I think, were profound. My son enjoyed it. At the end of it, he came up to me, gave me a big hug, a kiss, and said, "I love you, Daddy." And then I stood there and he's like, go. He's telling me to go. Gave me a kiss, "Love you, Daddy." All right, off he trot. Oh, can I go? Can I? No worries, buddy. And he was happy. So the experience left him not only fulfilled and comfortable and happy, but he was also completely comfortable to send me on my way. "Thanks for coming. See you later." Now, the Mother's Day experience was not even remotely like that. Because of the overwhelming nature, it was more clinging to my wife. So you can see, these aren't big differences. You know, there's no backstage writer here, just some ideas. And all of them were appropriate for everyone who went on the day. So the school taking the initiative to accept the feedback, to want to get better, to physically seek me out for advice, and to implement that advice had an amazingly positive impact on not only me and my son, but also everyone who attended the event. And that, my friends, is inclusion. So I give nothing but thumbs up and a gratitude and appreciation to my son's school for acknowledging, accepting, and asking, and then implementing the feedback and advice I gave them. The idea of inclusion in theory compared to the implementation of inclusion in practice are two very different things. And this is a continuing conversation, and I hope it's helped you to work out better ways to provide inclusion for the autistic people or people that you know that have a form of disability in your life. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Until my next video, we'll talk soon.